New statistics from the CDC show 5-year survival rates for women diagnosed with breast cancer is roughly 91%, depending on the stage of diagnosis. That's why early detection is key in saving lives, and artificial intelligence is now helping play a big part in that. Our David Greenberg has the story.
With over a decade at Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Laura Dean's job as a breast radiologist is to look for signs of abnormality within mammograms that may need further examination.
AI is alerting us to a pattern that could potentially be something suspicious.
And with the help of artificial intelligence, she has a second set of eyes that has the capability to flag very small outliers she may initially miss.
So AI has really specific algorithms where it's looking for really subtle changes in breast tissue that could be a very early sign of something suspicious or potentially suspicious. And so we start to see some of the AI markings coming up here, essentially just showing us that the AI is not detecting any findings in this exam, so it's giving it a 0. Basically letting me know that I think the case is negative, but also the CAD or the AI is also assessing this case as negative.
Like confirming what
exactly, yeah.
Already.
Watch as she explains why some scans can be trickier to read than others.
What's really tricky about dense tissue on mammography is breast cancer also typically shows up as this white tissue. And so you can imagine how there can be a masking effect, or what we call a masking effect, or basically a cancer could be hiding.
She continues, explaining how the AI highlights areas, giving it a percentage score.
So the percentage is basically just a calculation of all of the cases that the AI software has learned from, which is thousands and thousands.
Right.
Of those thousands of cases, 27% of cases that had features like this ended up being cancer.
With early detection the primary objective, using her years of training and experience, coupled with adapting AI, she says will help save many lives in the long run.
Interpreting mammography is really challenging, and breast tissue is really complex. And so I think it's a matter of, my human experience and looking at really subtle cancers that I have seen develop over time. And I have seen a number of cases where the AI thinks it's negative, but we find something that's a really subtle cancer. So it can't be one or none. It can't be only the AI, because I think the radiologist input and that human element of interpretation is really, really important.
I'd like to thank Dr. Dean for her time, as well as for giving us a peek behind the curtain there. Really interesting to get that behind-the-scenes look at how AI is helping doctors save lives every day. She says getting your screenings regularly is so important, and as she talked about, the earlier the detection, the better the chances are for survival and quality of life for patients. Isabel?
Yeah, so amazing that we have more and more tools in the toolbox here to fight this disease. So, David,
Absolutely.
thank you.